Glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 8. I think it's text 25. Nope. Whoops. Yeah, text 25. Okay, so I'll chant the Sanskrit myself then?
Yes, please.
Okay. Vipada santuta sasvat tatra tatra jagadguru bhavato darshanam yad syat apunar bhava darshanam vipada santuta tashashvat tatra tatra jagadguru bhavato darshanam yad syat apunar bhava darshanam. One more time. Vipada santuta tashashvat Tatra tatra jagadguru bhavato darshanam yatsyad apuna bhava darshanam. Word for word translation. Vipada, calamities. Santu, let there be. Ta, all. Sashvat, again and again. Tatra, there. Tatra, and there. Jagadguru, O Lord of the universe. Bhavata, your. Darshanam, meeting. Yat, that which. Syat, is. Apuna, not again. Bhava darshanam, seeing repetition of birth and death. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. I wish that all those calamities would happen again and again, so that we could see you again and again. For seeing you means that we will no longer see repeated births and deaths. Purport. This is Queen Kunti speaking, of course. Generally, the distressed, the needy, the intelligent, and the inquisitive, who have performed some pious activities, worship or begin to worship the Lord. Others, who are thriving on misdeeds only, regardless of status, cannot approach the Supreme. Sorry. Due to being misled by the illusory energy. Therefore, a pious person, if there is some calamity, therefore for a pious person, if there is some calamity, there is no other alternative than to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Constantly remembering the lotus feet of the Lord means preparing for liberation from birth and death. Therefore, even though there are so-called calamities, they are welcome because they give us an opportunity to remember the Lord, which means liberation. One who has taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, which are accepted as the most suitable boat for crossing the ocean of nescience, can achieve liberation as easily as one leaps over the holes made by the hoofs of a calf. Such persons are meant to reside in the abode of the Lord, and they have nothing to do with a place where there is danger in every step. This material world is certified by the Lord in the Bhagavad Gita as a dangerous place full of calamities. Less intelligent persons prepare plans to adjust to those calamities without knowing that the nature of this place is itself full of calamities. They have no information of the abode of the Lord, which is full of bliss and without trace of calamity. The duty of the same person, therefore, is to be undisturbed by worldly calamities, which are sure to happen in all circumstances. Suffering all sorts of unavoidable misfortunes, one should make progress in spiritual realization, because that is the mission of human life. The spirit soul is transcendental to all material calamities. Therefore, the so-called calamities are called false. A man may see a tiger swallowing him in a dream, and he may cry for this calamity. Actually, there is no tiger and there is no suffering. It is simply a case of dreams. In the same way, all calamities of life are said to be dreams. If someone is lucky enough to get in contact with the Lord by devotional service, it is all gain. Contact with the Lord by any one of the 9 devotional services is always a forward step on the path back to Godhead. Om Ganatamaram Dasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshudam Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupagaramayam Dadati Swaparantika Bandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Vaganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lavita Shri Vishakam becomes Jar. Hey Krishna Karana Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gourange Radhe Brindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sate Devi Pranamami Hare Priya Manchakapadri Vischa Kripa Sindhu Devacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. God. So, thank you for inviting me to give the class. I'm very honored and happy to be here. So this is one of the most famous verses in Krishna consciousness. It's it's quoted by Prabhupada. It's quoted by devotees again and again all over the place. And Prabhupada actually gave at least one class on this verse, maybe more, but in any event, one of them that he gave was transcribed, and it was became a chapter in a book called The Teachings of Queen Kunti. There's actually a book of on these prayers of Queen Kunti that was formulated by transcriptions, which consists of transcriptions of lectures that Prabhupada gave in Los Angeles. I believe it was 1973. I'm just about pretty positive it was 1973. So those lectures were transcribed, edited a bit, and they became the book, The Teachings of Queen Kunti. So we get to hear Prabhupada's purport on his purport, so to speak. Anyway, I looked up that lecture to see what additional insights I could get into the to what Prabhupada is saying here about this verse. And I did find something, which I found interesting and which I thought added additional clarification to the points he was already making. So in one paragraph, in one point in his lecture, Prabhupada is talking about the mentality of a devotee when the calamities come. So I'll read this paragraph. He says, Kunti Devi says, let there be calamities. Let all those calamities happen again and again. And Prabhupada's comment is, because she knows how to remember Krishna at times of danger. She is welcoming danger. She says, I welcome dangers because when dangers come, I remember you. When Prahlad Maharaj's father was putting him into dangerous predicaments, Prahlad was always thinking of Krishna. And here's the general principle Prabhupada's going to give now. He says, so if we are put into a dangerous position, and that danger gives us an impetus to remember Krishna, that is welcome. Quote, oh, I am getting this opportunity to remember Krishna. This is a devotee's mentality. Okay? Why? And then end quote. Prabhupada says, why is this welcome? It is welcome because seeing Krishna or remembering Krishna means advancing in spiritual life so that we will not have to suffer any more of these dangers. Tyakva deham punarjama naiti mamati sojana. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text 9. If one becomes advanced in Krishna consciousness, the result will be that after giving up the body, one will not have to take birth again in this material world. That this is to be desired. So for a devotee, it's kind of like a no-brainer. It's okay. There's some dangers and some inconveniences and calamities, but hey, if it's going to get me out of this cycle of birth and death and let me go back to Godhead, okay, it's worth it. Anything to get out of here, so to speak. So, but for the non-devotee, it's like totally bewildering. Prabhupada gives us in the kind of the next paragraph or the next, as he continues on in that lecture, Prabhupada, presents the reason why and this is very important to understand, the reason why non-devotees behave the way they behave. And I'll just read it. It says, suppose I'm very comfortable at the present moment. My body may be comfortable, but there will be death and then another birth. After giving up my present body, if I get the body of a cat or dog, what is the meaning of my comfortable position? Death is sure. And after death, one must surely accept another body. We may not know what kind of body we shall get, but we can know from the Shastra, the Vedic literature. The Shastras say that according to our particular mentality, we get a particular kind of body. Although I may be in a comfortable position, if I keep myself in the mentality of a dog, I shall get my next life as a dog. Therefore, what is the value of this comfortable position? I may be in a comfortable position for 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, or at utmost 100 years. Yet, when I give up this body, my mentality causes me to become a dog, a cat, a dog, or a mouse. Yet if, when I give up this body, my mentality causes me to become a cat, a dog, or a mouse, what is the benefit of this comfortable position? But people do not consider this. They think. Now this is what I found very interesting. Prabhupada's going to tell us what's going on inside their head. They think, especially in the present age, I am now in a comfortable position. I have enough money and a good estate. I have ample comforts and enough food. And here comes the big sentence. When this body is finished, I am not going to take birth again. So, as long as I am living, let me enjoy life. That's how they're thinking. You just heard the foundational conviction of the non-devotee. When this body is finished, I am not going to take birth again. They don't believe in a soul, in God, and they have a total different picture of reality. So therefore, they think, following on from this idea that when I die, I'm not when the body's finished, I'm not going to take birth again. They come to the logical conclusion for them, based upon their understanding. So as long as I'm living, let me enjoy life. Yeah, of course. Why not? If you're convinced, if you're totally like convinced that you're not going to take birth again, that makes perfect sense. As long as I'm living, let me enjoy life. But then Prabhupada says, this is the modern philosophy of hedonism, but it does not correspond to the facts. And that's the important point right there. This doesn't correspond to the facts. Now, what facts is Prabhupada talking about? Well, for Prabhupada, facts meant basically statements in the Vedic literature, and he kind of referred to that earlier. And something I read here, he said, we may not know what kind of body we shall get, but we can know from the Shastra, the Vedic literature. So in other words, that's for Prabhupada, that's facts. Facts are, and not just for Prabhupada, for the acharyas and for devotees, who are following the acharyas. That's our primary source of facts, Shabda Brahma. What it says in the Vedic literatures, we accept as factual. And according to the Vedic literatures, there is birth after death. There is birth after death. There is repeated birth and death in this material world. So now, but the thing is this: people, are there any other? But today, for people to accept that is very difficult. Actually, in this lecture, a little bit earlier in the lecture, Prabhupada says something interesting. He says, this Krishna conscious movement is giving all facilities so that people may come here, chant, dance, live peacefully, take Krishna prasadam and be happy. But people will not accept it. This is called misfortune. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, portraying the people of this age, therefore said, I am so unfortunate that I have no attachment for chanting Hare Krishna. Oops. Just did something here. Sorry, just gotta be very careful with these screens. If you touch them the wrong way, you're okay. Yeah. So people are Lord Chaitanya, as it says here, is portraying the people of this age. They have no attachment for chanting Hare Krishna, the people of this age, and they have no attachment for accepting the Vedic version, the information that's coming from Vedic literatures. And just to give you an idea of how unfortunate people, even aside from information coming from Vedic literatures, because somebody might say, well, you just have to accept that on faith, and we like to go with science. But there are even, aside from the statements of the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's other information out there which is saying that when you die, that's not the end of everything. I'll give you an example. I don't know how I got onto this. I did maybe 20 something years ago. There was this magazine that was produced by the devotees called Origins Magazine. It was produced by, Ramaswar was the editor-in-chief, I believe, but the devotees who did most of the research and writing were Dhruta Karma, Sadaputta, of course, and Dhruta Karma Prabhu, with a devotee named Madhavendra Puri being sort of like their research assistant. So there was an article in it where it was talking about how consciousness is irreducible, and it was presenting different types of evidence. So anyway, one of the things they were presenting is this phenomenon of children who remember their past life. And I found that really fascinating. And that, they mentioned the work of this one man in particular, this professor at the University of Virginia named Ian Stevenson, who had basically started around the same time as Prabhupada in the mid-60s, early 60s, researching this phenomenon of children who, at the ages like 2, 3 years old, when they first began to speak, they would, make statements about how they were, how they didn't want to be where they were. They wanted to be with their real family. And they would, give all sorts of information and details about their previous family, where they lived, what the family was like, what they did. And anyway, a lot of this, when they would record this information, and then they would go and check it out, and it worked out as accurate. Anyway, I'm just going to read you like a paragraph off the back of a book that was written by this man. Called Where Reincarnation and Biology Intersect. And it kind of gives like an overview of the whole phenomenon. It says, children who claim to remember a previous life have been found in many parts of the world, particularly in the Buddhist and Hindu countries of South Asia, among the Shiite peoples of Lebanon and Turkey, the tribes of West Africa, and the American Northwest. This man, Stevenson, collected over 2,600 reported cases of past life memories, of which 65 detailed reports have been published. Specific information from the children's memories has been collected and matched with the data of their former identity, family, residence, and manner of death. Birthmarks or other physiological manifestations have been found to relate to experiences of the remembered past life, particularly violent death. In other words, they might have a birthmark where the death wound was. So in the previous life, they might have been stabbed 10 times in the chest. So the child, who's claiming to have been that personality, who got stabbed 10 times in the chest, has a birthmark on that same spot with like 10 puncture wounds like that. Or somebody might have got shot through the head with a gun, and that person has a birthmark with the entry wound smaller than the exit wound in the exact same spot. And sometimes they can, they have to get autopsy reports. So this is how they're able to verify this whole thing. Anyway, reading on, it says here, anyway, so he just basically points out that there's an increasing number of these cases, and so why don't people just they should suspend their tendency to disbelieve and consider the evidence. But once again, it brings us back to the same point that Lord Chaitanya is making. He says, portraying, how does he put it here? Hang on, let me get back to that place. Portraying the people of this age. I am so unfortunate, but I have no attachment for the chanting of the heart. They have no attachment. It's just, it boils down to people being unfortunate. They're unfortunate. They can't accept the information in the Vedic literatures. They can't accept empiric knowledge even that leads to the same conclusion. They find it's very difficult for people to even accept the process of just chanting and taking prasadam and dancing. So, but there's no alternative. There's no alternative. And ultimately, it really comes down to that, we have to try to be very, just like what Chaitanya says in the third of Shastakam prayers, Trinadapi Sunichena Tarodapi Sahishnana Amanina Manidena Kirtaniya Sadahari, that one has to try to chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself low in the straw in the street, more talented than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and wedded off all respects to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. One can become, get interested, be involved, become attracted. But if one's not prepared to do that, then really nothing's going to help. I mean, to be honest, I tried this. I mean, how I got into all this is, I was at a place in my devotional service where I was kind of frustrated. As I was feeling like, hey, I'm not getting the result I want to get. I'm chanting, I'm engaging in the process, but I'm not experiencing that higher taste. I don't feel like I'm getting the realization. I was kind of becoming almost like doubtful. And so I took shelter of this stuff. I got interested in this stuff to kind of help me feel more confident that, yeah, what I'm reading is true. Is what I'm coming across in Prabhupada's books is true. Look, here's evidence. Here's empiric evidence to support what's being said in the Bhagavad Gita. As I said, just to give you an idea, I got a whole bunch of these books here. I've collected them over the years, just to, et cetera, to give me, that increased conviction that, okay, here's all these books, all this empiric evidence. These are people who are scientists. They're not, they're not devotees. They're not, they have no motivation. They have no reason to present this knowledge, these conclusions which support the Vedic conclusions, and yet that's exactly what they're doing. So, and it did help. It did help when I read that, and I studied these books, I watched the videos, and I thought, wow, yeah, there's something out there. There's empiric evidence that supports the Vedic worldview. And it was helpful to a certain extent, but it was just that. It was only to a certain extent. It doesn't really, because ultimately it just comes back to the point where you got to become humble and surrender. Just like in the Nectar Devotion, I can't remember exactly where it is, but there's one place where Prabhupada talks about how knowledge and renunciation can give you a foothold. They can give you a foothold in devotional service, but ultimately, it's just bhakti. See, ultimately, you have to, you just have to be prepared to really try to, just become humble and surrender and avoid the offenses in chanting, and just do the process, engage in Krishna consciousness, just like it is presented when we first, to us when we first join. In other words, if there's some problem, if we're experiencing some difficulty in advancing in Krishna consciousness, we have to take it as our defect. We have to take it that I'm doing something wrong. It's not the philosophy. There's nothing wrong with the philosophy. There's nothing wrong with the process. There's something wrong in the way in which I'm understanding the philosophy, and there's something wrong in the way in which I'm executing the process. we have to take that, we have to take it, the defects on our part. The defect is not on the part of the way the spiritual master is presenting the philosophy, or the way the philosophy is presented, or it's with us. We have to be humble like that. And here in Los Angeles, I'm a resident of New Dwarka Temple in Los Angeles. There was one incident like that. Some devotees went to Prabhupada, and with some of the more, how would you say, controversial or inconceivable, they brought to Prabhupada's attention some statements from the Krishna book and other things, which were really, kind of hard to believe. They mentioned about Ugrasena's 10 quadrillion bodyguards, and Chitraketu having 10 million wives, and something like that. And they said, Prabhupada, we're finding these statements kind of hard to relate to. How do we explain it to other people? Anyway, Prabhupada made that point. He made that point that, if there's something in the Shastras that you can't understand, you have to take it as it's you. You can't place the fault on the Shastras. You can't place the fault on the philosophy, the process, the acharyas. You have to be humble, and you have to think of it. I'm not purified enough. When I get purified, then I'll understand these things. And that's those statements are there, and that's the way. That's the way to make advancement. There's that statement, verse from the Padma Purana Prabhupada used to quote: "Atak Shri Krishna Namadi, Nabhaved Gurayam Indriye, Sevan Mukhe Hijivedo, Swayam Eva Spadati." Krishna can't be understood with the blunt material senses. Well, the mind is one of the blunt material senses. I mean, the mind's not a spiritual sense. It's just one of the blunt material senses. So, if we're thinking that when our mind comes across something that it just balks, and how could that be true? That doesn't tally up with my experience of reality. What's your experience of reality? You can't listen to your materially conditioned mundane mind, right? Krishna can't be understood by a materially conditioned mundane mind. But Sevan Mukhe Jivado, Swayam Eva Spadati. But he's understood by devotional service, performed in a submissive, humble way, beginning with the tongue, tasting and vibrating. Same point is there in the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, Tesham Satati Yuktanam Bhajatam Pritipurvakam Didami Buddhiyogam Yenamam Priyantite. Tesham Evanakam Partam Ahamagyana Tamaha Nasyami Atmavavishto Gyana Dipena Bhashta. Krishna explains in those two verses the process for making advancement in devotional service. He says, to those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give them the intelligence by which they can come to me. And those who are prepared to engage in devotional service, surrender to the process, I give them intelligence how to engage more favorably in devotional service. And the result of that will be, he says, out of compassion for them, I who am dwelling within their heart, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. That's it right there. That verse right there explains how one goes from being unfortunate to fortunate. And that's the only way. There's no other way. Krishna's within the heart, and he has to, ultimately, it's Krishna has to destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. Krishna's got to enlighten you from within. And whether that happens because you're sincerely engaging in sadhana bhakti, or you get the mercy of a pure devotee, or whatever, that's ultimately what has to happen. Otherwise, you remain unfortunate. Until Krishna does that, until Krishna destroys with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance, you're unfortunate. You're not going to be attracted to the chanting. You're not going to be attracted to the philosophy. You're not going to be attracted. You're just going to be, as Lord Chaitanya, portrayed the people of this age. You're just going to remain unfortunate. And so that's that's a very important point. And tying this in with what I was saying, where humility comes into, is that just today I had an interesting experience. A devotee I was going on Sankirtan with, I can't remember how he led into this, but he made the point that we're always servants. And he's saying that even in the spiritual world, even when you go back to Godhead, it's not like, when you get out of this material world and you go back to the spiritual world, okay, now I'm free, I can do whatever I like. I could serve Krishna okay, I have to serve, I could serve Krishna this way. No, you're part of a group. This is what he said. Just when he said it, just really rang true. You're part of a group, and and there's a leader to that group. You have to follow the leader of that group. Like the gopis, and there's groups of gopis. There's lots of gopis, and there's a leader to each group. So you have to follow that leader, and then all those leaders, they're a group, and they have a leader, and they have to follow that leader. And then all those leaders, it's like there's a hierarchy. And ultimately, they're following Radharani, you see? But it's not like any one person is following Radharani directly. That's what Lord Chaitanya meant with Dasu, Dasu, Das, Gopi, Bartik, Padakamalaya, or Dasu, 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 Das. He wanted to be the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant, you see? So that's spiritual life, to become the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant. From what I can understand, there's no other way. I tried this other thing. I really got full on into it. I read these books, and it was interesting, and it did help me feel more convinced about, there's what's being said in these books is true. We're more than just this material body. We actually are eternal spiritual beings. Look, there's empiric evidence that supports that, but I don't feel like I move forward in my devotional service. Maybe to a certain extent, by feeling more convinced about that. But then it just took me back to the same place. I got to surrender. I got to surrender to cooperating with the devotees. I have to surrender to engaging seriously in the process, cooperating with the devotees. Taking direction from devotees who are, above me in the hierarchy. Back to square one. And until you're prepared to do that, you really don't go anyplace. You just stay in the same place. So, this is not it's not a movement. If you want to call the shots, you have to stay here in the material world. Krishna consciousness is not for that mentality. We have to be prepared to take the direction. Take the right. Like Prabhupada himself, he presents himself on numerous occasions. He said, there's nothing special about me. I wasn't like a great scholar. I wasn't like a, very super renounced person. He just said, I had faith. I had my faith in what my spiritual master said. He gave me an instruction. I just had that faith that I got to do that. And if I do it, everything's going to work out. And that was Prabhupada. When Prabhupada was talking about himself, he presented that as his main sort of qualification, that he had implicit faith in what he heard from the spiritual master, and he was prepared to just surrender to it. And he did, taking risk, inconvenience like that. And that's what he attributes his success to. Not the fact that he was a great scholar, not the fact that he was a great renunciate, not that he had, was a great businessman or something. No, just that he was a very humble, simple servant of his spiritual master. And, because of that, he got the blessings. He got empowered to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world on the strength of that most important quality. So I don't know how long I've been talking, but I think maybe how's that work with the schedule? If I stop there, would that be too soon? Or?
No, that's about right, actually. But we've also got distractions.
Yeah, so I'll stop there. Maybe we could, if there's anybody who'd like to say anything or ask any question, we could do that now.
Okay, that sounds great. Thanks, Prabhu.
Yeah, 5:45. So I'm about 5 minutes ahead of schedule, but that's okay. Haribol. Right. Dasa smooth. Hare Krishna. Are all of you from Texas, or is this is everybody who's on this conference, this Zoom conference from Texas there? Or am I talking to a bunch of Texans, in other words, or is this people from all over the country, or what's going on?
Many of us are from Texas. I think
Texas, okay.
Some of us are from other states.
California.
Oh, California?
Marina Del Rey. Yeah, about a few miles away from the temple, LA temple.
Okay.
Yeah, yes, Prabhu. I had do you think that it's difficult for devotees here in America to see, how can I word this? You think we have more stumbling blocks because we're so comfortable materially that ebbs our, it ebbs our spiritual life by being surrounded by so much luxury and all the facilities that devotees here in America has. It's more difficult to, or
Well,
not difficult, but it puts a damper on our devotional service by being so comfortable.
yeah, let me quote a verse from the Bhagavad Gita and then trying to answer that question. Okay. Bogaishvaya prasaktanam taya parita chetasam vyavasayatmaka buddhi samadhanavadhyate. So this is Krishna speaking, and this is the principle, He says, in the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for the devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. So the answer to your question is yes and no. In other words, it's not the material opulence that is the problem. It's our attachment. If our minds are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, then yes, we'll be bewildered by such things, and the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. So we have to understand that it's not the material opulence, it's not the sense, it's our attachment to it, our mind's attachment to it. So you have to, but the mind can become attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence in any part of the world. Prabhupada would say in Kali Yuga, the pauper is proud of his penny. Like here in America, we're proud. Our minds become attached to a nice car or a nice apartment. But if you could be living in Siberia and your mind would become attached to a nice warm room or something like that, or that would be your material enjoyment and material opulence and sense gratification. So we have to, not have our minds become attached to that sense enjoyment, material opulence. And the only way to do that, that's Krishna explains that a little further on in the same chapter here in the Bhagavad Gita. I'll read the verse. He says, this is like 15 verses going forward. He says, Vishaya vanivartante nihahara shadehina rasavarjam asopyasya param drishtanavartate. This is Krishna's recommendation or explanation, not have your mind attached, to material sense gratification and material opulence, and then consequently become bewildered. He says, the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, though the taste for sense objects remains. But ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, it becomes fixed in consciousness. See? So in other words, just restricting your mind from the sense enjoyment, just like, trying to go, no, I don't want that nice car or any car, or I don't want that luxurious apartment, or, that ain't going to work. It can work very temporarily, but it's not the program that's going to enable you to be ultimately successful, according to Krishna right here. He explains why, because the taste for those sense objects will still remain. And if you just forcibly repress yourself, yeah, you could do that, but the taste for the sense objects will still remain. It's just a matter of time. You'll do it. You'll go after that car. You'll go after that woman. You'll go after that apartment, whatever it is. You can hold yourself back from it for a while, but it's just a matter of time. And if that's all it's keeping you, from doing it, you'll wind up going after it. But Krishna says, but when you cease those engagements by experiencing a higher taste, then you become fixed in consciousness. So that's what we have to work at doing. We have to work at getting a higher taste. So how do we get a higher taste? Well, there's some basic things that everybody can do. One thing that's really important is to hear from a pure devotee. I don't know if I don't think you live near the Los Angeles temple. What part of, are you in LA or San Diego?
I'm in Marina Del Rey.
Marina Del Rey, okay. Yeah. Well, there's a website. It's called Prabhupada Vani, and it's got all of Prabhupada's lectures on it, right from February of 1966, which is probably Prabhupada recording the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita, right through till the last thing he said in 1977. Prabhupadvani.org. And you can just, I do it. I just go on that website and I play those lectures. I'm listening to them. Back when the whole COVID thing started, I started right from the very first one, February 1966, and I'm working my way through them. I'm up to February 13th or February 14th, 1969, here in Los Angeles. Prabhupada was talking on the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, 6th chapter, starting with text 1. It's called the Yoga System Lectures. And it's great. It's great. You're hearing Prabhupada. And, Prabhupada's like, it's like investing your money in government bonds or something like. It's like it's a sure thing investment. If that folds, then you might as well forget about the whole thing. So it's like you're on safe ground when you're hearing from Prabhupada. At least that's how I feel, and it's really nice because you're hearing what he says. You can meditate on the philosophy, and you could be thinking about the pastime of Srila Prabhupada. I mean, I can't help it when I'm listening. I'm go, oh, now Prabhupada's in New York. He's in the Bowery, and now he's over here, and this is what's happening. And now he's, and because I read the Leela Amrita, you see, so I can, kind of match what's happening in the movement to what's Prabhupada's saying. And it's like a meditation. It's more than just hearing the philosophy. You get absorbed in the whole Leela, So that's very nice. And I get a lot of inspiration from that. That helps me a lot to do that. So, once again, this is on the point of how to get that higher taste. And that gives you, and the number of times that you hear Prabhupada emphasize the importance of chanting Hare Krishna. And also, when you listen to these lectures, it doesn't just start with the lecture. It has whatever was recorded, whatever was done on that day, a lot of times it's recorded. So you'll notice that a lot of times the devotees chanted the Maha Mantra for like 15, 20 minutes, a half hour before the Prabhupada actually started speaking. So notice Prabhupada didn't just talk about chanting Hare Krishna. He chanted Hare Krishna. And so did his followers. The devotees, and you can hear that. And it's really far out to just sit there and listen to the devotees just chant Hare Krishna, saying the same melody, the most simple melody, Hare Krishna, for, a half hour like that. And it really made, wow, this is for real. His Prabhupada wasn't just talking about it. He did it, his followers did it. So anyway, that's very inspirational. And then of course, the next step, well, if you haven't already, be chanting yourself. Prabhupada never said that everybody has to live in a temple. Sometimes it's even now, even if you wanted to come to the temple, there's no temple to come to. We're closed, except for the people who live in the ashram. There's nobody's allowed to come to the temple. People have been coming here for, 50 years or whatever, and they can't even go inside the temple and take darshan. So what to do? Well, we have the instructions: chant 16 rounds and follow the 4 good principles. And even on that point, I heard Prabhupada say in a lecture, he said, even the rules and regulations may fail. He said this, I heard it. Okay, he said, even the rules and regulations may fail, still the chanting should go on. See, so in other words, even if somebody's not able to follow the rules and regulations, and that might happen. It's not easy. Especially if you're not living in the association of the devotees, and you live in some place out there in the material world. All that's going on out there is breaking the 4 regulative principles. So following the 4 regulative principles is no mean feat. It's so okay, but if somebody's not able to follow the 4 regulative principles, from my understanding of the philosophy, that's no cause for despondency. Especially initially, I would not worry about it. Start chant, because if you do the chanting, eventually you will be able to follow those rules and regulations. You see, and then you're that much more solidly situated in Krishna consciousness. So it begins with the chanting. The very first thing is the chanting. To get into the chanting. Chant the kirtan. Try this thing. Go on Prabhupada Vani and chant along with the devotees. I don't know where you're at. I don't know if you're somebody who just came to Krishna consciousness recently, or you've been, doing it for 40, 50 years. I have no idea, but just in general, anybody, I'd say start with the chanting. chant, and whatever chanting you could do. If it's kirtan, chant the kirtans with the devotees, Sometimes I do that. I'm just, sitting there, I'll be in the book room or something like that, just cleaning up or whatever, and I'll just chant along with, that kirtan that's coming up before Prabhupada's class. And then, if you have beads, start chanting some rounds. It's not hard. And you say, well, I don't get any taste. So what? There's so many things we have to do that we don't have taste for. I mean, I don't know, you look like you probably played some sports or something like that when you were younger. I mean, you remember when you had to work out? There's no higher taste. It's just something you do because I got to do this to get in shape, right? You see? So like the human body is designed it has the capacity for tapasya, you see? And we're prepared to perform so much tapasya for material things, to achieve material goals. And then when it comes to something spiritual, 4 rounds, I don't know if I could chant 4 rounds. Ridiculous. That's ridiculous. I mean, from my perspective, there's human beings that could run 26 miles in less than 2 hours now. Not much less, seconds less. And it just gives you an idea of the capacity of the human body for performing tapasya. You know what that means? That means they're running back-to-back miles in less than 4.5 minutes on average to do that. She said, for somebody to say, it's too difficult for me to chant. I'm not trying to make, I don't know what you're doing, as I said, so I'm not trying to put you in the spot, but
No.
in general, for somebody to come and say, I can't chant, a few rounds. What? It's ridiculous. You just do it, and, but, the mind is very powerful. The mind is very powerful, but, once we decide that we're just going to do it, it's amazing what you can do. Something that I do that helps me, it's been helping me for the last few months. There's this book that was written, compiled many, many years ago. It's called Namamrita. It was done by a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. And what he did was he tried to take all the statements in Prabhupada's books, not letters and lectures, just the books, about the importance of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. And he put them into like subject matter. He organized it in terms of subject matter. So it's like it's 400 something pages long, and it's just one purport or one purport after the other, emphasizing, talking about the different aspects of the importance of chanting Hare Krishna. So sometimes I would read that book, and it just helps you become more convinced. But I found one. I think I found this just reading through the 4th canto. I found this one couple sentences in one purport that I've been focusing on now for a month or so. It's very short, it's very simple, but it just, for some reason, it just helps me bring my mind back to the chanting. Prabhupada says, mantra delivers the conditioned soul from his bondage. That's what a mantra does, mantra, real mantra, a true mantra, Shabda Brahma, it delivers the mind from its material conditioning. That's what the bondage is, okay? So Prabhupada says, so mantra delivers the conditioned soul from his bondage, semicolon. So simply by chanting the mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Here it comes. One can gain deliverance from any condition. In other words, whatever the problem, chanting is the solution. That's what Prabhupada just said there. That's what you just heard. I'll read it again. So simply by chanting the mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, one can gain deliverance from any condition. So I just, it's on my phone. You can see it. I have this thing called Pocket Vedas. It's an app. I think it cost me $25. Maybe it's for free now, who knows? But it's all Prabhupada's books. And I got it right there on the phone. So anytime I want, I could look up, something in any of Prabhupada's books, and I bookmark that. It's like a favorite, it's one of my favorites. So what I do is I just go to my, when I sit down to chant, I open this up, I put it in front of me, and I'll just, I'll look at it from time to time, just to remind myself. Just, I don't really read it, and I just kind of, it just reminds me that, hey, don't think about anything else. I don't have to try to solve any problem now when I'm chanting, or plan anything, or nothing. Just chant and hear it, and whatever the problem is, whatever it is, wherever it is I want to go, wherever it is I want, this is it. This is what I got to do. Just whatever I can gain deliverance from any condition. And if there's anything I don't want, this will free me from it, and it'll bring me to whatever I do want, you know. And I just chant, and it's very helpful. Another thing I do, which helps me, and once again, we're talking about, you know, getting that taste, getting the higher taste. There's a verse in the first canto of the Bhagavatam. It's Narada Muni's talking to Srila Vyasadeva, and he says to him at one point, he says, "Oh, good soul, does not a thing applied therapeutically cure a disease which was caused by the very same thing?" And this for me is like a really important verse, because, you know, there's some devotees, I you know, kind of watched them in their careers in Krishna consciousness, very intelligent. They're able to just, you know, they had enough control over their mind and their lives that they were able to just do things kind of the right way, right from the beginning. Unfortunately, that wasn't me, you know. So, you know, like, it's very hard for me. I could do it, but to sit down, just to, you know, to go through the beginning of the morning program, to just sit down in the temple room and just start chanting, I could do it, but I have to really push myself to do it. Something that really helps me, and I pretty much do this every morning, is I found this place I can go. It's about a 10-minute walk from the temple. It's a parking lot next to a Trader Joe's. I don't know if you're familiar with where the temple is, but it's about a 10-minute walk from the temple, and if there's a municipal parking lot adjacent to a Trader Joe's, I go up on the roof, you know, the 5th floor, and there's nobody up there because it's the 5th floor, no cars, but you know, it fills up by the 3rd floor, what to speak of the 4th floor. Nobody goes up to the 5th floor. So I'm up there all by myself. It's nice and spacious and clean. Nobody goes up there. Nobody bothers me. And I just go up there and I perch myself on top of one of the pillars there. I have a rubber mat that I take with me. I put it on top of the thing so my bottom is not too cold, you know. And I perch myself there, and I face the east, you know, where the direction that the sun's going to rise in, and I start chanting. And I watch the whole sunrise. And you know, I watch from the first light in the sky, and even before that, sometimes, you know, it depends upon the time of the year. You know, I got the moon there. You got the sun in the morning and the moon at night. You know that song? Yeah. So it's enlivening. It helps me. It helps me. The fresh air, you know, and especially when the first light comes in the sky, and it starts getting brighter. You know, I remember there used to be this expression about the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus, the greatest show on earth. Well, you know, I disagree. For me, the greatest show on earth is the sunrise every morning. That's the greatest show on earth. You know, it's like, it blows my mind. I never get bored. I don't know how many sunrises I've watched, and it's never boring. And you know, like, it doesn't get like, oh, I've seen that before. It's like every morning, it's like, wow, this is where we're at. Look at this. It's like an art show at every second, changing at every second, you know. It's amazing. Anyway, so I do that, and it helps me chant. I get energy from that, you know. It just, and it's physical, and it's more than that, because it's kind of like, without me even trying, it turns my mind, it transforms my mind from being an atheist to a theist. You know, as I watch that whole thing happen, without me making any conscious effort, I start feeling, yeah, there's no way that this is all happening by accident. There's something really wonderful behind all this. I mean, there is some very wonderful, powerful intelligence behind all this. There's no way this could happen. I'm not trying to think like that. It just happens automatically. And then, of course, that inspires my chanting. Then, you know, that helps me get more into the chanting. And I do that. And then right as the sun rises, you know, just when it goes right up above the horizon, I have certain mantras that I chant, which are in, you know, Prabhupada recommended in the books, you know, in the different purports in the Bhagavatam and elsewhere. So I found those, and I learned them, and I recite those. I chant it. As soon as I see that the sunrise, I have about 3, 4, 5 mantras that I chant like that. And it's like a whole meditation. And it helps me. I get my rounds done, you know, and it's not painful. It's not like I'm pulling teeth or something like that, you know. I enjoy it. It's tapasya in the sense that, it's like a workout. I gotta put effort into it, energy into it, but so what? I had to do that when I was playing basketball when I was a kid. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with exerting yourself. So it's just, yeah, I'm not saying it's exertion free. No, there's exertion there, but it's not, I don't feel like demoralized. I feel like, okay. And even if I don't get a taste, like a genuine, just the overall experience is very enlivening and exhilarating. So the point I'm making is that, as I quoted that verse, "Oh, good soul, does not a thing apply therapeutically, cure a disease which is caused by the very same thing?" So somebody might say, "Okay, yeah, you're just attached to the outdoors. You're just you're attached to nature." And yeah, okay, maybe, but I'm using it in Krishna service. You see? So that's what Narada Muni's telling Srila Vyasadeva. If you're attached to something, if you got an attraction for something, figure out a way to use that in Krishna service. I was told that in martial arts, that's kind of a big principle, jiu-jitsu or kung fu, I can't remember which one, but you use a person's energy against them, like if you see they're coming at you, you kind of rather than just try to oppose that force, you take that force and turn it around on him, So it's kind of like that, if you, like say you like music, so you learn how to do music to serve Krishna. Art, you learn how to do art to serve Krishna. Cooking, so you cook for Krishna. And in this way, it's called dovetailing, actually. And it's a really practical way to help you be engaged in Krishna service. This is, for me, this is very practical. It helps. As I said, if I had to do it, I could stay in the temple room for the whole time and do it. But I'd be pushing myself, I'd be suffering. I'd be thinking, oh man, I'm missing that sunrise. But, I could do it, but this I feel like I'm doing something it's not anything wrong with it, and it's helping me to do what I'm supposed to be doing. So yeah, that's just like a tip. I mean, actually, kind of that's my oops. Oh, Doug's on. My computer was crashing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyway, it gives you an idea. Anybody else have anything they'd like to ask, or you could make a comment too if you want to. I look forward to meeting you, by the way.
Yes, Prabhu, I'm a recipient of your book distribution. I found a book in a pile of trash, Easy Journey to Other Planets in Beaumont, Texas. And Sarvabhauma Prabhu, he brought me to Krishna consciousness.
Wow.
All Krishna Maharaj. That's been since what, 80? Around, yeah, about since 80. So
We were, I don't know where in Marina Del Rey you are, but we've been doing this program for probably about 6 months now, where we've been packing Bhagavad Gitas in a plastic bag with a little flyer in it and hanging them on people's doorknobs. And we went down to that area, but Marina Del Rey is a big area, but we were down there.
yeah, I'm in walking distance of where they give Rath Yatra, which is so missed this year. I'm in walking distance.
Oh,
maybe,
wow. Okay.
Maybe a half a mile, yeah, from where the devotees are every Rath Yatra.
Yeah, we only went down as far as Lincoln, and then I stopped.
Okay. Yeah.
I was trying to, concentrate on areas with a lot of apartment buildings. So, sort of as you go west, I guess it's west of, would it be west? As you go past Lincoln down towards the beach, it starts becoming single houses again. So we kind of stopped there. But anyway, when this whole thing disappears, maybe we'll come around the temple and we'll be able to meet each other in person.
Yes, Prabhu. Are you in Texas?
No, I'm at New Dwarka in Los Angeles.
Oh, I'm sorry?
Yeah, I'm here in New Dwarka in Los Angeles.
Okay. Wow.
Were you saying Marina Del Rey?
Yes.
Yeah, so you're in Los Angeles then, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So I look forward to meeting you and the whole thing's over. Yeah. How you doing there, Sarv? Hello, friend, Sarah
I'm
Boma.
fine. So nice to see you. One of our bhaktas has a question on the chat. Maybe
Okay.
Winston can read it.
Sure. Or would Doug, would you like to ask the question, or would you like me to read it? Okay, I'll read it. Doug says, Hare Krishna Prabhu, what strategies have helped you continue
Oh, you got to be louder. I can hear your voice, but I can't make out the words.
Oh,
Make
okay.
it louder.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Hare Krishna Prabhu, what strategies have helped you continue to distribute books during COVID?
Okay. I heard the part, distribute books during COVID. What was the first part?
What strategies have helped you continue to distribute books during COVID?
Okay. Well, I'm only participating in one strategy, but I'm familiar with a couple others. Our membership director, in cooperation with our temple president, was able to build up a bit of a credit with the BBT. So we've been, as I just kind of sort of mentioned, we've been doing this program. We've been putting books in plastic bags with a little flyer in it and hanging them on people's doorknobs, because especially here in LA, that's pretty much all we can do. I mean, Los Angeles has been kind of a hot spot for quite a while now. So we're not really in a position to interact with the general public, talking face to face or anything like that. So that's one strategy. But there have been, right at the beginning of the whole thing, there were a bunch of devotees here in Los Angeles, but mostly in ISV, ISKCON Silicon Valley, and a group from New York. They were doing really well on the internet. They were contacting people on Facebook. They were making calls, and they were actually selling sets of Srimad Bhagavatams in many cases, certainly like, a bunch of books to people who they'd never met, and, with great success. Actually, more sets of Bhagavatams and Chaitanya Charitamrita have been sold this year, believe it or not, in North America than in any year leading up to this, by far more. It's like, yeah, by far more. And then the most far out thing for me is one of our boys, our Sankirtan team, he was doing that, but he kind of ran out of steam doing that. And so he went on traveling Sankirtan, and he started trying to sell a set of Bhagavatams to people he would meet on the parking lot, in a Walmart parking lot. And he just came back. He just went out again, actually, in a 3 months, 10-day trip. It's 100 days. He sold 40 sets of Srimad Bhagavatams to total strangers he met on Walmart parking lots. I mean, like, I can't imagine that. Like, I never heard of nobody's done that. That's a first. Sarva, you ever heard anything like that? 40 sets of Srimad, and he got the proper, he got the cost price for them. 40 sets of Srimad Bhagavatams in 100 days. That's almost one every other day. Wow. To total strangers, that he's meeting on a parking lot in Walmart. Unbelievable.
Maybe he went to their homes. He must have cultivated them a little bit extra.
Yeah. A lot of them required some follow-up, but the initial contact was just meeting them on the parking lot in a Walmart, which is like, wow.
Amazing.
Yeah. So that's what I'm aware of, strategies. The big thing is, from what I can understand from all this, is you just got to try. I remember actually, I was in Australia for 11 years. I was sent there. I was traded there, actually, for another couple of Madhujis. And but during the time I was there, at one point I was on this program called Contract Sales. And what that was there was a couple of devotees here in America. I think it was Pragoshin Tripurari. They tried to start a program to sell sets of Prabhupada's books to to people. So they got the mailing list or something like that. They got something from Omni magazine, which was kind of like a real alternative magazine during the day, and they contacted those people, and they were trying to sell sets of books to these people whose names they got from Omni magazine, was maybe their subscription list or something like that, and it didn't work. But anyway, a devotee named Hari Sari, who was Prabhupada's secretary, servant for quite a bit, he was the GBC in Australia. He caught wind of it, so he started that same program in Australia. Before that, Tripurari and Pradosh kind of gave up on it as not being feasible. And I was part of the original team of that, the members of that program, Contract Sales. So one of the things they did was they sent us to Encyclopedia Britannica to learn how to sell a set of encyclopedias. We disguised. We didn't go and tell them we're devotees. We want to learn how to sell a set of books so we can sell all Bhagavatams. No, we pretended. We actually pretended that we wanted jobs as Encyclopedia Britannica salesmen. And it was four of us, I think. One, two, three. Yeah, four of us that went, and we did it. We made believe we were after a job as Encyclopedia Britannica salesmen. And I remember one of the things we learned was they told us, don't mess around with unqualified leads. So they told us you always want to deal with referred qualified leads. You say if you just do cold calls, they used to call it flying by the seat of your pants, and they said don't do it. It's a waste of time. See, the people we were contacting were somebody who they sent in a card, on trying to pursue on some promotional offer that was in a magazine or a newspaper or something like that, indicating some interest, or you got their name from somebody who already bought a set of Encyclopedia Britannicas. Those are the kind of people that you would contact. To just stop Joe Schmo on the street, they told us that's a waste of your time. Don't do it. It's, as I said, flying by the seat of your pants. So the reason I'm mentioning this is because that's according to the laws of material sales, you can't sell anything like that. But here's the devotees, they're doing that every day. They're just flying by the seat of their pants. They're going out and meeting total strangers, but because Krishna, the Krishna factor is there. You see, the Krishna factor is what makes the impossible possible. That's the only way I can understand it. Because we're doing something let's take that devotee. His name is Dhira Lalita. He did something which, according to the laws of material salesmanship, is impossible. You can't sell a set of Encyclopedia Britannicas to somebody you're meeting on a parking lot, Walmart parking lot. That's a total stranger. But he did it 40 times in 100 days. You see? Just one story, kind of like coming in from the other side here. There was this, and Sarva Boma might be aware of this story. There was this group of devotees. I can't remember which airport they were in. Maybe Chicago. I think it was Chicago. Anyway, they were distributing the books and they were doing really good. And there was this guy who was a professional salesman for something or other, and he was watching them. He was watching the whole group of them, how they were stopping one person after another, and the people were taking the books. And he was a salesman himself, so he thought, man, these guys are onto something. So he kind of met the devotees, introduced himself, and talked to them and said, hey, so can I do this? I mean, could you guys hook me up? Can you give me, I'd like to buy some of your books, and can you, give me a go at it? And they said, sure, yeah. So the guy bought I think it was $2,500 worth of books, and he thought he was going to clean up. He thought he was going to make a killing on the market because he was a salesman himself, and he was supposedly good. So he thought, this is a breeze. I'm going to make a lot, just a bunch of money in my spare time here. So he got the books and he started approaching the people just like he's seen, was watching the devotees do. And the guy couldn't sell a book. Maybe he sold a few books. I can't remember, the exact statistics, but he found it really hard, to the point where after some time he went to the devotees and said, hey, look, could you guys do me a favor? What? Could you buy back these books? It's just, I don't know how you do it. I mean, I can't even sell one of these books. I don't know how you guys do one after the other. See, so because he didn't have Krishna's mercy, he wasn't a devotee. Devotees get Krishna's mercy, and that's how they're able to do it. And that's why the karmis can't do it. So there's the Krishna effect. So getting back to the question somebody asked about the strategies, the most important strategy in distributing the books is have a desire to do it and try. And then Krishna will, he'll reveal to you how you can do it successfully. And one practical, that's pretty philosophical. One practical tip along those lines is I mentioned it, there's this group in ISKCON Silicon Valley, ISV, and it's the leader there is a devotee named Vaisheshika. and he is like super empowered. He's the one who's kind of like spearheaded and behind this whole thing of selling all these sets of Bhagavatams. He's basically the person who's kind of like pushed everybody else, inspired everybody else who's done it. He's the initial push, so to speak. So they have if you're on WhatsApp, they have a group. It's called NASLT, North America Sankirtan Leadership Training. I think that's what it stands for. But you could become part of that group. You could contact somebody in ISV, that's in San Jose area, and become part of that group. And they have conference calls. They meet. And when you get in with that group, with that sangha, it's just contagious. It's contagious. You get caught up in it. They have kids up there selling sets of Bhagavatams. The children of the devotees. They were during the COVID when it was at its peak there. They had the kids making phone calls to people and telling them about the books, and they were selling sets of Bhagavatams. The kids, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14-year-old kids. So, the desire is the desire and the association. So if anybody wants to, get into the book distribution now and during the marathon or at any point in the future, I would suggest contact those devotees up there. They're not hard to get hold of. NASLT on WhatsApp, or just make some phone calls, to ISKCON Silicon Valley. You'll get them. You'll be able to track them down. And once you connect with them, then you're off and running. Anybody else have anything they'd like to? Okay.
Desire.
Well, the association is kind of how you get the desire too. So.
Yeah, it just bring back to memory when Sarvabhauma and all of us, the Dallas and Houston crew, during the Christmas season, we do the oil paintings, and there's one devotee, Indranila.
Oh yeah, sure, Indranila. Yes,
she was just huge. I mean, even not just during the seasons, the holidays, but she was just huge on Sankirtan, and it was just amazing. And you brought back that it was her desire to serve, the reason she done so big.
Yeah, she had a great desire to please her spiritual master.
Yes.
And Krishna fulfilled that. I remember her. She was great. Well, looking at the clock here, it looks like I kind of went over the. Oh no, it was supposed to be a kirtan at 6:20. Well, now kirtan was supposed to be at 6 o'clock, and then the announcement's supposed to be at 6:20, and then you close. What time is prasadam served, so?
We haven't quite figured that one out yet.
Got any virtual prasadam?
You've already given that to us, Prabhu.
Oh, okay, thank you.
You've given our virtual prasadam. Thank you.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much for inviting me. I hope it was okay, and Hare Krishna.